looks like a good night. We're joined by the entertainment journalist Caroline Frost, and the Brits did really well last night, didn't they?
Staggeringly well. So yes, all the usual suspects. Olivia Colman, who we are so used to seeing up on that acceptance stage now, her mantelpiece is going to have to get a bit longer for yet another gong for the crown. And also, of course, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, the woman of the hour. I mean, I just think that the 007 crew must be feeling very, very fortunate that they bagged her when they did. She's so in demand. Amazon have scooped her up. She goes home with 2 more Golden Globes to add to her Emmys just before Christmas. So, but we should mention as well all the others. We got Chernobyl won, Sam Mendes, we saw Taron Egerton, Brian Cox, even Bernie Taupin won for one of the songs from Rocketman. So yeah, a staggeringly successful homegrown night.
And on the best films, was it 3 out of the 5 were streaming services?
Yes, so this was the great story going into the awards, that Netflix had scooped 34 nominations, leading the pack by far. But actually, when it came to it, it seemed to almost turn on its head, and it was like a vintage Hollywood night where they celebrated sort of old school. We had the wartime epic from Sam Mendes, 1917. And we also had Quentin Tarantino's love letter to Hollywood of 1960s with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which actually took home 3 of the big awards. So yes, so obviously Netflix's disruption will continue, but I think it's going to have to wait for another year, from the sounds of things.
And what of this Sam Mendes film, 1917? Has it not been released across the UK?
No, it's coming out this week.
It's
yes.
one that we just haven't really heard very much about.
Well, no, I mean, he is obviously a previous Oscar winner. We know that he's had great success in the theatre. He helmed those 2 record-breaking Bond films, and now he's kind of, this is his love letter to his grandfather and the men of that generation. And really, it's epic in scale. It's on that sort of pedigree of Saving Private Ryan and those films that perhaps we haven't seen so much of recently. So yes, quite exciting.
You mentioned Chernobyl, which I have to say I fairly recently got around to watching. Gritty realism. Hallmark of that.
I saw that at a BAFTA screening, so a huge, huge screen, but considering it was made for TV, again, something on a filmic, epic, as you say, almost brutally real scale. And I mean, going in, I think everybody was expecting that critics and fans alike would concur on giving that one the gong. But it's lovely to see that Stellan Skarsgård won something as well for that, because he was so good in it.
And it's actually really inspired a huge following, hasn't it? I know someone who's actually going on holiday to Chernobyl. He's travelling there because they're so interested in it as a result.
Well, Craig Mazin was absolutely dedicated, spent years, the creator of the showrunner, and he also did a complimentary podcast, so that anything that felt a little bit dramatic, you know how The Crown suffered from a few people saying, well, that's not actually what happened in history. I think he was desperate to keep the drama intact for fans of drama, but also to really tell the story. He said it owed it to the people of that region.
We're 3 minutes into this chat, Caroline. We haven't sort of looked at the political aspects of this award ceremony, which tells its own story, actually, doesn't it? That wasn't a big part of it. Ricky Gervais is relatively muted.
It's really interesting because a couple of years ago, particularly with the Weinstein stuff going on, and then with Trump being in the White House, it was very much a sort of moral high ground by particularly the big hitters of Hollywood. When you think of people like Oprah Winfrey and Meryl Streep taking to the stage and using this great platform to really sort of call out the political figures of that time, Ricky Gervais almost put a pin in that. He went to the stage, he said, none of you are in a position to lecture. You're not living in the real world. Don't come up here with your political speeches. You have less education than Greta Thunberg. Don't do it. Thank your agent and get off. And I mean, it's
Harvey Weinstein, who was the person they all used to thank.
Well, this is it, isn't it? And I mean, Weinstein was one of the names that Ricky Gervais called out last night. Also, Jeffrey Epstein, Tim Cook was sitting in the crowd, the chief of Apple, and yet Ricky Gervais talks about the fact that Apple is, on the one hand, making this purposeful TV, and yet still makes its money through perhaps what Ricky Gervais called sweatshops in Asia. So I think Ricky Gervais, we know it's a sort of, it's a reckless, fearless booking, but it's the 5th time he's done it. So clearly the producers aren't stupid. It's a kind of safe bet. He will offend, but up to a certain point. Even he said there was a joke he wasn't going to tell, and then told it, the one about cats, which is for another audience. But yes, I think it's an interesting it's an interesting booking. I mean, I think he fits it because the crowd, I mean, the first year he did it, I think they thought, oh, what have we got here? Who is this Brit, for starters? And now they've perfected their gracious smiles, even when people like Leonardo DiCaprio are on the receiving end of the joke. They know better, especially when the cameras are on them, than to do anything but laugh along.
Fantastic stuff. Right, I'll have to go and watch it all on record. Yes. All the fun from last night. Thanks so much for coming in, Caroline. Great to see you. Thank you.